God. Survivor Specialist Phil and Alexa are back, and Season 38 is underway. We got our first look at Extinction Island, or the edge of extinction, if you will. Reem Daly, the first person to go to Extinction Island. I think she's going to be a pretty good ambassador for it. It seems like she's the type of person they like to have be the first person to go to these types of things. Really loud, gonna be pissed. She was obviously pissed tonight. It was a really obvious boot, but I think that they made it obvious on purpose to show how much she wanted to stay in the game, to show what this twist was really going to be about. So I'm okay with it being more about Reem going home than it being an A-B storyline. But anyway, other than that, really rushed premiere because it was only an hour and they didn't have an hour and a half because everybody really wants to watch the world's best, obviously. Screw that. This should have had an hour and a half. They needed an hour and a half really bad because there was just way too much going on and a lot that we did not get to see because there was just no time to show it.
Yeah, we got this felt like a normal episode. I know a lot of people will say it's a good premiere, it's a bad premiere. It didn't even feel like a premiere to me. It just felt like your normal 60-minute episode. But yeah, Reem is, I'm glad you mentioned that about Reem. She is the perfect choice. They had a little bit of fun with like reading the votes separately. I don't really know why Reem and Wendy voted for two different people. I think it was more just to send a message. But even, I think even Jeff was like, well, we've never had one person get this much attention at Tribal. So at that point, everyone knew she was gone. But like you said, Phil, she is the perfect ambassador for this. She's pissed. She had her whole, like my friends and family, I don't want them to be disappointed. Like, I'm so mad that this is how this is happening. She's the perfect person to go in for this. So, and that transition was really good too. I thought they were going to maybe do it after the credits, but they kept showing her subtitles. And normally when she walks into, I'm assuming the medical tent with Dr. Joe, she just like walks right in and gets in this boat with this random strange man and then just gets dumped on the beach. I thought that was really well done. However I end up feeling about the Island of Extinction, I'm really, really happy with how they introduced it.
Yeah, and I think what's going to happen is as this season goes on, the episodes are going to become more normal, and Extinction Island is going to become more like Redemption Island, where we do see it after the credits, and we didn't get Jeff saying, well, this was your first tribal council, first person voted off, all of that fun stuff that we always hear him say. Instead, it just followed Reem out the door. So I think what's going to end up happening is the next episode, the next person to go, will probably see more of Jeff being like, ooh, now the numbers are even, or, ooh, now the two of you, or now you're down two people and we're only 6 days in. Like, what does that say about your whole tribe? And then we'll see it afterwards. So,
yeah, I'm really happy with how they did it. I think with Wendy, if this tribe goes back to tribal council, I think it's going to be Wendy, which will be cool because then you have an alliance on this. Is it Island of Extinction, Extinction Island? I don't really know where we're going yet.
I think it's Island of Extinction, but I don't know.
On the Island of Extinction. And she's a funky character. I mean, she got a lot of screen time. Obviously, she was like one of the focal points of the episodes. But we were shown her in more of a, like, not a first boot light, obviously because she wasn't the first boot, but she got a lot of backstory, which I wasn't expecting so much out of her. So I'm curious to see where we go with her. Maybe they win and it goes over to the Kama tribe, but this tribe seemed pretty tight. And as soon as Keith, Wendy, and Reem went into the water, everyone was like, well, those three are out, which I felt super bad about because, like, poor Keith literally cannot swim. Like, that is a huge problem.
Yeah, Keith literally can't swim, but I also think that Keith is the one who's in the best shape out of those three. I think that Reem definitely was bothering people because of her whole, I'm going to move all your stuff, and everybody hates that. I hate when I go home for Christmas or in the summer or anything like that, and I put something down where I know where it is. My mom moves it because she says, like, well, I moved it to clean it up. Well, you moved it and didn't tell me where you moved it. So who does that help? You don't need it. Don't touch it. And you could tell that was pissing people off. But in a show like Survivor, the last thing you want to do is actually instigate people. So you're just going to let it go. And War Dog was so much calmer tonight than I ever thought War Dog was going to be. David's name never even came up. And I think that Reem pushed people the wrong way. And I think that they might not trust Wendy. And I think that Wendy might be a little too I don't really know how to describe, but she might just be a little too loud for them. It might just not be the vibe that the rest of that tribe is going for. And I think Keith is somebody that they're all going to get along with. They're all going to like. He just ended up siding with the wrong people first. But we've seen that happen before. Adam and Zeke both sided with Mari, and Adam won and Zeke played again. So, what difference?
So it worked out fine for them. Yeah. And Keith was also the first one to go toss them under the bus. And not even so much toss them under the bus, but he was just like, hey, I don't like the vibe that they're given with Rick, who's already has the last name title. He's already Devins, which will be confusing because Devins sounds like a first name. So for people who don't know him, it's going to be a little weird. But I think you texted me about this, so I'd rather like you get the credit. But you said Keith is getting like kind of the David vibe, which I totally agree with. I mean, he was shown at the marooning as being a swimming disaster. He looked like he was drowning. So and he's someone who got a lot of confessionals really early. I thought maybe he was going to swing his way, but I think if he follows in David's footsteps, he's going to be pretty fine.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. He had the biggest edit tonight. He had the most confessionals out of anybody. I think he had 4 or 5 when everybody else was just getting 1 or 2. I think Joe might have gotten 3, but everybody else for the most part was just 1 or 2. And so I think he was by far the most, which was kind of surprising because I never thought that Keith would have ended up being like the star of that first episode. And he really was. It went from I can't swim, and I mean that was pathetic. It was awful.
That was inability.
Yeah. And me and Will have had this argument on the podcast way back when Will was still on the podcast during Second Chance, when Tasha was exhausted and couldn't swim. And they had to rescue her because she literally was just exhausted. And Will said, well, it doesn't matter. She just can't do it anyway. Tasha knows how to swim. Keith does not know how to swim. You could see that. That wasn't a tired thing. That was he doesn't know how to swim. And then he ends up going out there and he's doing pretty well. And like, it's cool that Wendy and Reem showed him how. It doesn't seem like anybody else was really going to. But I feel like what's going to happen, people are say, oh, Keith, he's trying. He's putting in the work. And he's also a pretty likable guy. He's just a pretty normal guy, and I think he's going to stay around for a little while. Although the Blue Tribe is really uninteresting because it went exactly how we all thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that, and you and I both assumed that Blue Tribe is going to go, but they're pretty tight. Actually, I want to talk about War Dog first because you brought him up. He is such a great example of someone who he is on Twitter being Joe Mena. He is having a ton of fun. He on the island is calm, he's collected. He very well could have gotten to a screaming match with Reem during tribal council, but at one point she was I think she mentioned something about the clothes, and he was fighting back, and then he said, you know what, you're right, and pulled out right at the right time. He has probably dealt with plenty of extreme personalities before, so I think he handled that super well. He and David had a funny little moment when Wendy was just refusing to vote for her. He's in a really good spot. I think everybody really likes him. So I hope people will understand that he's having a ton of fun on Twitter, and that is completely different from what we're currently seeing on TV. Because I think everyone's just oh, he sucks. But no, he was the most level-headed person on our TV tonight.
Yeah, and I don't even think that he really cares how people are viewing him. I think he loves it. Awesome. I think he loves the negativity because any attention's good attention. And he knows that if he ever plays again, who cares? He just wants, he probably just wants to play again. But yeah, what I saw tonight was he was really calm. Really, there was nobody who stood out to me as a villain or as anything like that. There weren't many moments for these players other than Keith. We had a little bit from Julie chopping that piece of wood, which was cool. We had some from Ron Clark because Ron Clark found the secret advantage. We had some from Gavin. I mean, we kind of got to know these people. But to shove it into an hour is so hard when it's 14 new people and they're all competing for screen time with 4 really popular returnees. I mean, I love the scene of Kelly Wentworth coming in and Lauren and Wendy both going crazy. And then Lauren saying also, Joe is my man crush on Survivor. And there's Joe too. So I liked all of that, and that's good that we got to see their reactions to it. But that scene on the boat was just so rushed, and there was no back and forth. There was no great lines like Mike White had last season with Christian of, oh, we're gonna pick Big Bang over there, and we didn't have anything like that. All we had were a couple confessionals, and everybody just rushing off the boat. That has to be the shortest marooning in Survivor history.
Yeah, it felt really short because you get the beauty shot at the beginning. And he's this is the edge of extinction. And then he immediately cuts to Jeff getting on the boat. It's none of them climbing up. And then this kind of the awkward moment of the returnees climb up and Kelly's just like, hey, and then goes into her corner. And then especially for the four of them, all four of them seem to have the same sentiment of like, oh crap, we are at a time in Survivor where no one wants to play with us. And you see that with Kelly and David, they just go like hide in the corner and freak out together. And Aubrey and Joe not so much, because I think Joe just like can't not help people. But at one point, Aubrey and Joe are just like, okay, everyone wants to get rid of us. But we really only saw that with the conversation between Gavin and Eric. And past that, that's all we heard from them. Ron got a lot of attention. Julie only got one confessional, but hers was long and very like background oriented. But yeah, War Dog, that's kind of the only group of like people that particularly stuck out.
Because like you said, it was a normal episode, and when it's a normal episode, but it's also the premiere, you want more time to be able to spend with these people. But when it's just a normal episode, you don't have more time to spend with these people. We can only show an hour. And how does a normal episode of Survivor go? The tribe that loses gets most of the screen time, and that's what we saw tonight. Blue got most of the screen time the whole time, and I mean, they're probably the more interesting tribe at the end of the day, but like also the divide is not interesting. That's the problem. It went exactly how we expected, although they do probably have the bigger personalities with David, Kelly Wentworth, War Dog, and then you have Rick Devens, who is already shaping up to probably end up being the star of the show. And then you have Keith and Wendy. Like, those are all huge personalities. Plus you have to play up Reem as being the first person voted out, which they did. So Kama really had a hard time getting it all, like getting any attention. And I think it was only Julia and Chris who actually didn't get confessionals tonight, which is pretty crazy that Chris didn't get a confessional because Chris was on the losing tribe. He had a little bit at Tribal Council where he actually said something, but he did not get a specific confessional for Chris.
No, and he got, like you said, he got that conversation in Tribal Council, but you're right with the Kama tribe. I remember, I'm trying to think of who we expected to stick out there. And I think we said Victoria and Julie. And we saw Victoria and Julie both had one confessional apiece, and they seemed to be bonding a little bit. And Julie was really having an issue with that machete, but no one's going to talk about that. But then at the end, everyone was like cheering for her. So I guess winning's going to help with that, but I think they're pretty solid for a while. I just think this Joe thing is going to be really big for them. And Aubrey, I don't think we're going to see a lot from Aubrey early on. I think she's made it very clear. She wants to lay low. She wants to stay quiet. And it's easy to do that when Joe is the other person. So I get why Gavin and Eric wanted to get rid of Aubrey beforehand, but I think she's doing the right thing by laying low.
And my favorite part of this entire episode is Joe constantly saying that he wants to lay low. He's going to put Joey Amazing on the back burner. And then everything he did tonight, he made fire. He ran both parts of the challenge solo that like could be run solo. Could have had Eric give it a try, but no, Joe did it. So he did everything. He did everything. And
everything.
And it shows the difference between him and Aubrey is it shows Joe has not learned. And the problem with Joe is because everybody knows who he is, because he's such a popular player and because he's so strong, nobody's going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, no, you don't have to run that part, because everybody wants him to do it. Because I think Eric said it tonight. He is going to be the biggest shield that you could ask for. So why ever tell him, no, I want to do that? No, just let Joe keep doing it, because no matter what, he won't be able to hide. He can't hide. There's no way for him to do it because everybody knows his game and it's so one-dimensional. And everything he said tonight showed that it's going to continue to be one-dimensional.
Yeah, even like he can't even hide behind Chris or Eric or anyone like that, because he has that step ahead. And even David was like, all these people are asking me for help, and he's actually at an advantage, which I don't think we really talked about because we didn't consider it. He's at an advantage because he's not known for his challenge prowess or his like ability around camp. So his advice seems less threatening because he's like, oh yeah, I got this. But he wasn't squirreling around looking for idols. Like David was really great. And he and Kelly Wentworth are two people I never thought would work together. And it sounds like next week they're going to either try to go for each other or just do that to keep each other safe. But they seem to be working out pretty well considering that their tribe is odd.
Well, and it's what I think I said this on the fantasy podcast where I said that if Rick Devens wants to win, he has to align with Lauren, Kelly, War Dog, and David. And it looks like he's aligned with Lauren, Kelly, War Dog, and David. Mm-hmm. And that's the smartest thing he can do, because you have the two big threats that are obvious, and then you have two people that seem like they're going to rub people the wrong way the entire time. And I'm not Lauren and War Dog don't have the same personalities, and War Dog was much calmer tonight than we expected, but still Reem had some animosity towards War Dog. And then you just saw after one challenge, Lauren coming back on, I'm so pissed about this. And it seemed almost humorous and not really angry, but it also seemed kind of immature, which that's fine. Like I actually like
21, yeah.
Yeah, I like that type of character. I think it's fun to watch people actually show emotions with no regard and just be like, screw it. But I could see as the game goes on, people starting to say, okay, Lauren, like, we get it. You're mad we lost. Okay, whatever. And I think that if that is really the alliance Rick is going with, that's a great alliance to be in. And you have shields all over the place. Nobody's ever going to look at Rick. And I was watching with a couple people tonight. And what did we talk about? David and Rick both made it across that triple thing balance beam, and Kelly Wentworth got nothing except the Nina Acosta face. And who was the other one? Oh, and Chris couldn't get across for his life.
Chris tried like 3 times.
And he couldn't get across. And there might have even been more times that we just didn't see.
Yeah, so. That challenge was intricate. Oh my God. I have like not a good voice tonight. That was intricate. That was a little too extensive. I loved that ending puzzle. I normally don't like how these end in puzzles, but that just looked like super tough. And then that falling into that, what am I looking for? That net. I was like, this is one world. Like, someone's gonna break their back. And oh my God, if Kelly Wentworth got medically evacuated, Jeff would have just like canceled the season on the spot.
That would have been the last time they ever had a net on the show. And I hate that they have that net, because even when people are landing, they're landing on their feet, and it's just awkward. There's no give to it, and it's not soft. It's not anything. It needs to be a softer net. To have it that tight just seems crazy to me. And yeah, Kelly Wentworth, she messed up her face really bad. Not as bad as Nina did, where Nina had the crazy whiplash on her nose. And I feel bad for her, because clearly Kelly knew that she was going to be on the season for a little bit and was like, all right, let me get my tan on. Let me get my hair done right. Let me make sure I got my abs rocking. And then she comes out and smashes her face on day 3. And there's no way to hide that. So although she did do a good job with the buff, putting it over the top.
Yeah, she hit that very well. That was a great fashion statement. And they didn't really cut to her at the end, because it's like a gigantic group challenge and everyone's got to run across like their 17th beam. But you can see her like, she's wobbling. Like, she had no idea where she was. So she's probably like, oh crap, I'm about to go to tribal council and I have this gigantic gash on my head. Like, they're totally going to get rid of me. But I think like she and Lauren clicked immediately, which it sounds like everybody on the internet assumed was going to happen. And I liked Lauren too. Like, I get what you're saying. I liked that she's like, man, guys, this sucks that we lost, even though like there was no chance she was going to go home. She's a college athlete. She seemed to have done perfectly fine in that challenge.
Is she a college athlete?
Yeah, wasn't that her thing?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I never knew. I do like that. That's all she talked about pregame, and then that's actually what they put as her name, or like her job title on it. Was just like, college athlete. I love it.
It's like on The Bachelor when their social media influencer is their thing. It's like, oh, Lauren, not college student, college athlete.
Yeah, and very small thing that I just want to note here. They gave Joe. They said Joe was from Second Chance, but they said Aubrey was from Co-Wrong and Wentworth was – oh, no, they said Wentworth was from Second Chance. They said Aubrey was from Co-Wrong and Joe was from Worlds Apart. So I thought it was funny that Wentworth got acknowledged for her second time because her first time was so weak, and Joe and Aubrey both got acknowledged for their first times because their second times were so uninteresting.
That's a really good point. I completely missed that. Yeah, I totally get why they did that.
Yeah.
But I love when Jeff, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but Jeff's like, this is Kelly Wentworth. She did all these amazing things. This is David. He did all these amazing things. And lays out all 4 of them. If I was one of those newbies, I would they're getting them to cheer and having them come in. I'd be like, screw this. I am not pumped about this.
Well, but that's why Reem went home, because Reem Reem wanted to go after Kelly and Dave, or Kelly and Lauren, really, which I kind of had a feeling that was going to happen because, and I said this in one of the podcasts before, and it's exactly what happened to Stephanie LaGrossa. When you praise somebody and you think somebody is such a legend, and when you really look up to them, and I'm saying this, that the women look up to Kelly Wentworth more than the men do, and the men will look up to Joe more than the women will. So when you really look up to somebody and you don't fit in with them, or they're just not who you thought they were going to be, you take it so much more personally. And I think that's what happened is Reem and Kelly had nothing in common. And despite the fact that Reem had been watching since day one and probably really liked Kelly when Kelly was on the show, she had really nothing in common with her. And that might have bummed her out and pissed her off to the point where she says, you know what, I want to get rid of her because why should Lauren get to be friends with her? That should have been my role.
Well, that's, I mean, and Reem, the main thing that I will give Reem tonight is she was like, you guys are hitting me with age discrimination, which is probably the first time it's ever been brought up because there are so many first boots who are gotten rid of just because they're old. But yeah, I think it just came down to like, I think you said this, you can tell who Kelly Wentworth is going to align with versus who she isn't. And Reem, I think, yeah, Reem was just frustrated. I think as soon as her name came up, like as soon as Wendy mentioned her name, Reem was just like completely lost and like couldn't grasp like the way to get me back into, or the way to keep me in this game is to be level-headed, not to flip out.
And the reason I don't think it's age discrimination though is because David Wright's 44, Reem was 46.
Yeah,
and also
in this situation, it wasn't.
Yeah, in this situation, it's not because also the other two people that they were gunning for were a 25-year-old and a 19-year-old. So, like,
I agree. In the moment,
yeah,
I think I'm glad she brought it up, like in general.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that it's interesting to look at because why do I think Reem or Julie would both have a hard time on this season is because they're the older women who tend to do terribly on Survivor, and that's just a fact. But when I actually watch it play out, that's not why she went home. It wasn't just because she was the older woman. It was because she was, for some reason, trying to hide that she was a mom. She got kind of weird with Keith when Keith said it. She was trying to be cooler. And I think she is probably a really fun, cool person to hang out with. But she's trying to be, she's hilarious. But I think she was trying to be different than how she actually is in real life. And because of that, what ended up happening is she put a target on her back because she wasn't being sincere, and I think people didn't like that. And also, she brought up a great point. This is one I really do agree with, is if you didn't want me to move your stuff, why didn't you just tell me not to move the stuff?
Yeah.
And you can do that without making an argument. And I get you don't want to ruffle feathers or rustle feathers, but you need to, like, it's very simple to say, hey, I had that over there. Like, could you just not move that? It doesn't, like, now it's Sandy, like, I didn't want that. And you can do that without being a really big negative force.
Yeah, I'm glad she brought that up too, because I mean, this hindsight is 2020. I'm sure if Rick was like, hey, do you mind just like not touching my clothes? She would have been like, okay, that's fine. Or she could have gone the other way and just been like, but I'm helping you, all this stuff. But the way to resolve like 99% of conflicts is just to be honest and relatively polite, and like it would have been fine. So I'm glad you brought that up, because she made a good point, and none of them really like had a response to that. Like none of them really fought her on it. So that's how you know it was the right choice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else.
Oh, I have to say this too, because I just said that the women will look up to the women more and the men will look up to the men more. And then you have Aurora, who is all in on Team Joe, even though she's gay, because of just Joe. Like, I thought that was
just awesome. So hot.
Yeah, I thought that was great. How she was like,
into, like that's your thing.
It doesn't matter. It's Joe, and he's there, and like his hair is at the longest it's been, and his
mustache is at the longest it's been.
Yeah, the mustache is ridiculous.
That's gotta go.
He looks like a villain, a really bad villain.
He looks like, is it Jafar?
That's who it is. Yeah. Which, by the way, Disney's Aladdin comes out later this year.
That
our podcast sponsored by Disney.
That we will be live podcasting during that. Will Smith looks insane in that. Well, we need like an entire podcast to talk about the still photo for the promo for that.
Terrifying.
So Aurora, who I have now like boldly claimed as my crush, like she had so much, like everyone was so negative on her, like everyone was like, oh, she's gonna be super mean, all this stuff, and her one confessional was like pretty funny. So I'm glad that they've kind of been turning people around from what we've been shown in their preseason content. And Ron too, like Ron's a goof. It's awesome.
Yeah. I want to know how Ron's going to explain in those white pants that he went to get water when he comes back and he is just covered in black on his knees and shins, where you would be if you're digging. Like, come on, man. You didn't go to look for water. And you can't claim that you're using the bathroom, because who uses the bathroom on their knees? Like, what is going on with that?
Yeah, I don't know how Ron Clark is peeing, but that is not how I think you're supposed to do it.
And if that's how he's doing it, like, Ron, what are you doing? But
he's starting an academy for kids, so really he's doing the right thing, no matter how he's peeing.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what do we think about this menu advantage? What do we think about this?
I'm pretty into it. So so first of all, the first time we saw this was on the Exile Yacht with Cochrane and Debbie. So what we have, I wrote this down. So you can either steal a reward from the other tribe and get an extra vote, or you get individual immunity, but all this has to happen in the first three tribals. I'm pretty into it. Which would you, like, talk me through which ones you would go with?
Well, I like it because it can only be used in the first three tribals. I just want to say that first. Second, the only one I would use this early in the game is if you were going to get voted out and you have to use an immunity idol. Otherwise, I'm not doing it, because to steal a reward, all that does is make you look like a dick.
And then you're going to get swapped with them the next day.
Exactly, because even if you're giving it to your tribe in those first three boots, they're showing you something. Because don't be surprised if we go to 3 tribes of 5 at 15. So, in those first 3 boots, ooh, look, now we're down to 15. You took a reward from us, and now you're on a tribe with us. So that would be stupid. Second, the steal a vote, or not steal a vote, but extra vote, it's just too early for that. And really, like, if you're in a situation where your tribe of 9 is already at a point where you need to be stealing votes from other people on your tribe, you have bigger problems anyway. I mean, that's like when David played the idol for Jessica Lewis and every single person went, why did he just do that? It worked out for him, but that doesn't work out in general. So I probably wouldn't do that. But if you're in trouble,
is that taking it from someone?
I mean, even if it is taking it from someone, I wouldn't do it that early in the game unless you absolutely need to. Because, like, what's the worst thing that happens? You lose, like, somebody who's your ally for 9 days that might turn on you later anyway. So, like, what do you really need it for? All you're going to do then is create enemies and put a target on your back.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. So the extra vote versus the individual immunity. Extra vote, you're possibly getting someone else out, versus individual immunity where you're personally saving yourself. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, and obviously, like, if you think that you're going to be voted out in the first 3 votes, you play an individual immunity idol for yourself no matter what. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. So that's the only time I would use it.
Oh, no.
First, and making some of the things so much, like pointless almost, you're forcing people to think, how hard am I going to play this game? And maybe you get somebody to overplay and it causes a lot of drama. So I really do like that, because maybe Ron says to himself, well, I want to do this for my family, my tribe. And then that ends up screwing him in the end. But he's overplaying because he feels like, I have this advantage, I better do something with it. And all that does is hurt him.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wish instead of reward steal, there was a way to, like, provide for your tribe instead of taking from the other one. Because I feel like tribal alliances aren't as big as they used to be, because tribes get broken up after, like, the second vote. And not that I want to encourage, like, Navidi strong or anything like that, but everything now is so hidden and so me oriented. I think it would be refreshing to have something that could benefit the entire tribe. But what I'm more confused or hopeful about is, what if they don't go to tribal council? Can he like donate this? Like, can he give this away, like what Ryan did to Chrissy in, like, the 3rd tribal if they don't go to it?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, is it 3 tribals that Ron Clark goes to, or is it just 3 tribals in general? Because if you go on a Karora run, like, you'll never need it anyway, and then that's just a really pointless advantage because nobody can use it. Like, so I am wondering the same thing. Does he get something for 3 tribals for himself? And since he's on Joey Amazing's tribe, he could then break Joe's record of most consecutive days without being vulnerable.
I have to imagine that he can either donate it, or there's some way that he ends up at tribal council, because it's such a cool idea. And it's the first time we're really seeing this in action, that kind of like what you said, they were never going to let Carl not get the idol nullifier. Like, they're never going to let this not be used. So I don't know. But I liked it. I think this is so much more refreshing than just, like, finding another idol, getting, like, the legacy advantage, which I never really could get behind. So I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I think it's good. I think it's a good way to get people thinking without necessarily being repetitive, even though it is repetitive. I just want to jump to, we had a lot of people have, like, little winner quotes tonight. And I think it was interesting because sometimes it's too obvious. We only hear from, like, 1 or 2 people. But I think there were a bunch tonight who said it. I think Keith had one. I think War Dog had one. I think that Joe definitely had one, and then I think Victoria might have even had one. But like we were getting a lot of these. Eric had one. There was a lot of as I'm looking, Julie had one, Gavin had one. Sometimes all you end up hearing is I'm going to win this game because I'm going to win this game. And then you cut to somebody like Chelsea who's like, I'm going to drink coffee. And you know that means Chelsea's not going to win. And I think for some of the people who didn't get as much screen time, especially over on the Kama tribe, we still heard stuff from them, except for Julia. But I don't know. I still like maybe it's because the first episode I saw Julia. I know what she looks like. I know where she is. She was clapping when they were coming on. She was really excited when it was Wentworth and Aubrey. Or I think she was really excited about Aubrey, which is good because she's with Aubrey. So maybe that's like a little hint, and that's the most we could get of her. But I felt like there was a lot of we're in this to win it people. And that's good, especially when you're trying to play up this twist of Extinction Island where am I going to go and just sit here on this island? Because I'll tell you what, Reem's going to end up quitting. I really believe Reem's going to end up quitting pretty quickly. I don't think she lasts that long because to go there on day 3 and then you get there and there's nothing there and no one else has gone there and you have no idea how long it's going to be, I don't see her staying there maybe she'll stay for 3 more days and see if somebody else comes out to join her. But man, that could be such a long time. And you have to be sitting there going, I'm going to have to sit here for possibly 36 days. Like I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, coming there at night, I was like, just going in from her perspective, I was like, oh man, coming in at night must suck. Like was she just sleeping in that like wooden shell of a ship? Like that was crazy. But I think what was abundantly clear to me was when she was reading her 2 options and she's like pissed and she was fired up. She was like, of course I'm going to take another chance. Like I got to do this. Mm-hmm. I have to imagine that everyone is going to at least give it a shot now. And I think we thought most people would, but just upon watching it, it's like we're at the point where everyone who's playing has been a huge fan of this game forever. Like Julie been playing forever. Reem said she'd been watching since like day 1, episode 1. There's no way that you're not even going to give it a shot that you'll get back in. But that doesn't look fun. Like I'm assuming you don't get fire. Any flint or anything. So until Joe gets there, like she's just gonna be hanging, and that looks tough.
Yeah, and it sucks. And so yeah, I think everybody will go because how could you not go? Unless you like pretty much quit. How could you not want to at least go out of curiosity, see who's there, see if anyone's there, first of all, see what it's like. Like it's a no-brainer. You have to at least walk down that path and see what's waiting for you on that side. Because for all they know, it could be you get there and it could be a 4-star resort. Like who knows? You really can't tell. So you have to at least go. And yeah, I don't think Reem expected it to be as hellish as it was because her walking out there. I mean, at that point, was she thinking, hey, this guy on the boat just kidnapped me. Hopefully Survivor Production finds me. I'm on an island out here. Because it's pretty crazy. I mean, there was nothing going on. There was nobody there to greet her. There was no torches. She only had the torch that was in her hand. I thought that was pretty wild. Mm-hmm. And now she had nothing to do for day after day after day. So, and, you know, that's how it should be if you're going to include this twist. You need to make it so that it's mundane and stupid. And if you really want to be here, let's see how far you'll push yourself to do it. So I just don't feel like the first person to go is going to last all that long. And I would say whoever the next person to go there probably won't last all that long. So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah. As soon as you said she'll be there for 36 days, I was like, you know what? That sounds horrific. I saw someone posted at this point, probably last week or 2 weeks ago, someone was like, if Survivor started on January 1st, on the day of the new year, it would have ended today. Mm-hmm. And that was like a couple weeks ago. And like, I just thinking about that, I was like, that's a month and a half. So not only a month and a half in this grueling game, excuse me, but a month and a half of like being by yourself, and there's no hunting for advantages. There's probably not going to be a ton of socializing because everyone's going to be trying to get each other to quit, or you're alone. That's still TBD on where we stand on that. That sounds horrible. So like you said, I'm glad there's no like daily challenge. I'm glad there's no shelter because it shouldn't be that. Like if you are even getting the possibility of getting back in, it should be terrible.
Yeah, it should be awful. And that was the biggest problem with the Outcast twist is we don't actually know what they were doing. We were just told they're getting the same rations you've had. And it's like, are they though? Do we know that? Do we trust that? At least now we see it, so we can believe it. I thought it was really well done. I mean, we'll see how it actually goes. But another thing too, and it's being brought up in the chat right now, is that there was a second advantage that was on the boat that was brought up in the Dalton Ross article, which was really cool. And it just didn't make the cut. And it's kind of surprising because it seemed like it was pretty complex and then just doesn't make the cut because it was such a short episode.
So I think also, yeah, glad you brought that up. If anyone like has actually, this is great for like the non-believers of Survivor 2. This is a fantastic, it's a long article, but it's pretty much an hour by hour, blow by blow of how they set up a marooning on Survivor. It's super fascinating. A couple of people who we have like known and met are mentioned in it by name, which is super cool.
Are we going to say Melissa Goulet? Because
yeah, Melissa Goulet.
of course we're going to say Melissa's name on here. Come on, she listens. She listens to us, so we have to.
Melissa Goulet, we know her. She's very important. And
she's very important. I liked. She was actually. She was saying, "Look at me, my name's in here," and she was kind of trolling Will because Will's name wasn't in there. And I was like, "All it
bugs him."
I know, and all I said to her was, "Well, all it really did was say like." Melissa was awake. Like it doesn't say that she does anything cool.
Like,
it's just like she was up.
Melissa.
Yeah, and it really praised the other girl a lot more than her. So
Yeah, the other girl got like half the article written about it.
Yeah, and Melissa just got the I was awake.
Yeah, just I was awake at 4 a.m. ready to do something at 11 a.m. But I believe that second advantage was a tribal advantage. It was something. So actually, going back on my rant, I wish I had gotten it because that would have been the whole thing. But yeah, that wasn't even mentioned. And that makes me believe that there's, you hear about, I think like Ozzy found an idol, like a fake idol that Zeke made in Millennials versus Gen X, and they were playing Game Changers. Like there's a lot of things that happen that just never end up being a part of the story, never end up being brought up. So there's no reason to talk about it. But considering that there was this whole story around having these idols or having these advantages planted, I did think it was odd that it didn't even show up.
Yeah, it must just not have either been found or just not be important to the story that they feel like they don't need to have it because it's just like it's just too short of an episode. It's a shame because premieres have to be at least an hour and a half. An hour premiere just is never long enough. Thankfully, it was only 18 people instead of 20. Thankfully, we only had to get to know 14 instead of all of them anyway. We didn't get Julia, we didn't get Chris, and we had one little lines from people here and there, and that's all we really got. So. I just when I look at this cast now, though, it's weird because my mind didn't really change on anybody from watching this premiere. I still feel like Wendy and Reem are going out early. I still feel like Victoria could go either way. I still feel like somebody like Eric is going far, and I feel like somebody like Chris is going to be middle of the road, which is exactly like my boot list doesn't feel much different. I don't feel like I'm that wrong in my boot list after watching this episode, whereas in seasons past, I've really felt like, oh crap, got a really wrong read on that person. I don't feel like I got any wrong reads yet this season. I mean, it's just because we didn't get to hear much from these people.
Yeah, Davey was the best example. We thought Davey would be a disaster, and he is now like the most loved survivor, like of recent memory. So yeah, either these people are super predictable or we didn't get the chance to know them. I'm going to say we didn't get the chance to know them very well. Oh, I had a thought. Oh yeah, but I'm with you. I want every premiere to be 90 minutes. I don't want it to be 2 hours because once it hits 2 hours, it's just two singular episodes. Like 90 minutes is able to stretch one long enough for you to get to know people. But yeah, you're right. Like Victoria, Aurora, even Aubrey, like Gavin, like pretty much the entire Kama tribe other than Joe. I don't know much about them, but this is what we were saying about Navidi and Ghost Island too. There's just no opportunity to get to know them yet. And I think we'll get there, especially because Ron has this secret advantage thing. He's going to have to make some form of alliance. And actually, my Twitter just popped up. Gamer Girl mentioned that Ron does have the ability to give it to someone. I don't know to what extent, but apparently if you read the note, there's something about donating it to somebody.
Gotcha.
So, okay, that happened.
That makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know. Aubrey also. So here's another thing that I want to say about Aubrey. Aubrey comes out and says that she's going to play an under the radar game again. I feel like what's going to happen is Aubrey's going to end up getting a similar small edit to what she got in Game Changers. As much of a bummer as that's going to be, we saw the least of her out of all the returnees tonight, and that's what she said. And she's on a tribe with Joe, who is taking so much of the screen time. And if she wants to stay under the radar, it's hard to edit that. And unfortunately, I think that Aubrey's going to end up with the least amount of screen time out of these 4 returnees again. And I thought it was very telling when it was, this is what my plan is. And maybe that's all they needed to say to not really mention Aubrey all that much in the next week or two.
Yeah, and to your point, that's what she wanted. She specifically wants to do this. And she, in all of her preseason interviews, she has been so adamant, like, I can't have my Survivor experience end the way that it ended with Game Changers. Like, it can't go this way. So it'll be interesting to see her navigate. I think this is the right call for now, and I think normally people would be really mad, like, oh, you're not showing Aubrey, because I think a lot of people said that in Game Changers, but they're getting their, like, they'll be getting their, like, female dosage with Kelly Wentworth. Like, we're going to be getting a ton from her. And David, I think you don't need to blow us up with, like, 5 Joe confessionals can equate to like 1 to 2 David confessionals. Like, you can give us a little bit of David here and there, and like he'll say something quirky, he'll say something good, something strategic, and we'll be like, okay, I got it, I get where he stands. Joe, I feel like they're going to give us something similar 5 times in an episode.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's only so much like that Joe's going to do or say or whatever. So like it's not going to be any different. Whereas David seems like I'm ready for David's like soul whatever thing that he's.
Oh, the soul vote, yeah.
Yeah, the soul vote. I'm ready for that. Like, let's go. Let's get the soul vote in there. Joe is never going to come up with a soul vote. Joe's whole mentality is just try to be a little more under the radar than I've been in the past. Doesn't work.
With a wild Jafar mustache.
Yeah, and I'm going to say too, I know I was like all conflicted on my actual winner pick, but after watching tonight, I feel like Eric's going to actually win. And I wish I would have just stuck with it, because I don't know who I actually said my official winner pick was. I think I said Eric, and then
did Eric or Lauren? You and I kept waffling between Eric and Lauren.
Yeah, I know. And then I want to say I stuck with Eric. And then when we did the fantasy game, I had no faith in Eric, but I also didn't say anybody was going to win. And then after watching tonight, I really think that Eric's going to end up winning. That's just the vibe I'm getting from that guy. He talked about he talked about his plans, how he wants to get rid of Aubrey. He talked about how he wants to keep Joe as a shield. He's a firefighter, or part of the experience is also about learning the stuff. He does seem like he's there for the right reasons. Just that one damn video was so bad.
Yeah. I think we need to try to move past it, because everything seemed fine tonight. Everything seemed super normal. Though I get this was more of a Gavin thing, but I don't want to let this go. Eric and Gavin are like lifting up some big piece of bamboo, and Eric says, direct quote, "Tell me something country about you," which, like, I'm sure like within context like made sense, but I was like, oh no, they're making him JP. And then Gavin said he
eats fried pickles.
He brines pickles or fries pickles.
It sounded like he said. It sounded like he said he likes fried pickles, because I was watching with a bunch of people and they were all like, "I like eating fried pickles," and they're all from like Florida or like somewhere on the coast. Like definitely not country. So I couldn't understand what he said. Pickles. He brined pickles.
But is that a Southern thing?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do we know anyone from? I get it.
Where's Vaughn? Isn't Vaughn from the South?
Yeah, or Donathan, someone, please. Or chat. People from the chat are from the South. Do you brine or eat fried pickles, or both?
No, that's what it says. Fried pickles. He said fried pickles.
He did say that. Oh yeah, because this is really stereotyping here, so I'm sorry in advance for anyone who I might insult. If you go to Brother Jimmy's, they have like really good fried pickles, so maybe it's a Southern thing.
I like how Brother Jimmy's is your go-to Southern.
Okay, so New York City has every single type of food you could ever want, except for like Southern and barbecue. I don't know why. There's like no good like barbecue places.
That's crazy. Yeah,
except for Roja's, which isn't that good.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess LA doesn't have that good of barbecue either. Like if you can find the place, you can find it.
LA would maybe have better options, but also probably not. Now that I'm talking out loud.
Yeah, who knows?
Just avocados over there.
It has that. You can have barbecue avocado if you want.
That's the dream. Yeah, that's the American dream.
I'm looking at Gordon Holmes. I'm looking at the Gordon Holmes power ranking challenge, and it's Gabby who's doing it with him this year, and she actually did pick Eric to be her winner pick too. So
she copied us.
There's no doubt. She still listens. There's no doubt. Or if Gabby never listened, her mom is still listening, and she said, "Gabby, you better pick Eric because Phil and Alexa like her."
Exactly. Like we like him. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm just seeing that now for the first time.
My mom just texted me and she goes, "Can you guys stop talking about pickles?"
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I honestly thought that was the best part to talk about, but that's not here
Well,
today.
but here's do you have like a point that branches off of this? Because I'm on Gordon Holmes' thing, and I have a real problem with what he did here.
So my whole thing was just like Gavin is someone who I feel like people were super hot and cold on. I am hot on Gavin right now. I am into Gavin. I think he is going to be good.
All
I
right, so
thought he
here's
was going to mention that he got married 2 days before, but anyways, go ahead.
well, this is what I was going to say. This is what makes me a little annoyed by this Gordon Holmes article, and he's normally pretty good. And I'm just looking at this now because I'm like, oh, what did he think of this episode? Because I always like to read after the premiere what people are thinking, right? He says, as episode report card incomplete, and he gives an incomplete to Eric and Gavin and Rick.
What's an incomplete mean?
I guess like he gives A's, B's, C's, and then he says, incomplete. I can't give you full credit if you don't show your work. And he has Rick, Eric, and Gavin. How can you say that Rick didn't show his work, or Eric, or Gavin?
What's the criteria for showing your work?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Am
I
I
mean,
going too deep now?
well, no, we saw a lot of Rick tonight. Like the other ones were Chris, Victoria, Julia. That's fine. Aurora, because she only had one line. But Rick was a very big part of that episode tonight. I mean, he was definitely in it and was integral in keeping them together. And I'm sorry that I'm like ripping apart Gordon Holmes' thing right now. But I just happened to look over here and I looked at the bottom and I was like, what? There's no way.
So I've never like gone that deep into these before, but I didn't even consider that. I feel like you can't do an incomplete. I feel like, I mean, Chris, I guess you give him I would give Chris like a B. I don't know.
No, Chris, I could understand why he gets an incomplete because he literally wasn't like on screen.
Yeah, but Rick, I would give Rick a B plus, like B plus, A minus. I would give Gavin and Eric like, even if you don't want them getting her Abri, at least there's some kind of alignment there. That's an A.
Absolutely. I mean, at least we know something about them. And yeah, anyway, I saw that. I just saw that and I had to say something because I was like,
I have
whoa,
to say this is
what I get for going into the internet hole of what did Gordon Holmes think while Alexa's talking. And oops.
I was saying nothing of substance. So props. We have the only two props I can think of off the top of my head. The episode title was said by no other than Joey Amazing. Neither War Dog nor Rick said that.
Okay.
So if you had Joe for an episode title, which I am sure no one did, you get some points. Reem had a confessional in every episode she's in, and I can't remember if we actually brought this up, but I am going to assume that all these props, except for the Extinction Island ones, these happen when you are in real live game, correct?
I actually think for confessional in every episode, we said that it counted when you're on Extinction Island.
Okay.
So she doesn't have that. I think when we did the other game, it did, but I pretty much remember saying that if you go, this one becomes tough because if you go to Extinction Island, you might not get a confessional.
Yeah, I guess we can see how that goes. I guess we can see how it goes throughout the season. Like if no one gets confessionals in it, then maybe it'll be worth changing. But you're right. They'll probably give like one or two people a confession each episode.
So I think we have to keep that as any episodes you're in, and I think that's what we said on the last podcast. So.
Okay, and that'll include 1+ hour in a challenge. We're including the Extinction Island challenge for that?
Yeah, we said that.
Okay, so ignore me, that's fine. So really the only one I guess I can think of right now is Joe getting the episode.
That's the only thing that happened. Because everything else that we have this season.
Oh, what about Torch Stuff, No Words? Did she say anything?
I don't remember. We'll have to go back and rewatch the ending.
I have a feeling she didn't say anything.
Oh no.
But someone tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Well, other than that, the only thing we have left, and we got rid of LVP, but we still need MVP. From all you crazy people. So, my team has pretty much the final five, so I'm feeling pretty confident. But out of everybody who's there, I think Ron is the only one on my team who could actually be the MVP. Because War Dog had a good episode, but he only had a good episode because of what we expected from War Dog.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more that he subverted the expectations than that he was necessarily like a shining star. And I'm not saying he had a bad episode. I think he had a really good episode. Like if I was giving grades, I would say he had like a B+, A- episode because he was aligned with David. He was very quiet when he was talking to Wendy, which was good. Even at Tribal Council, he wasn't too bad. He could have gotten really mad at Reem, and he really didn't. And then Wentworth, I mean, it can't be her. It can't be Lauren. It can't be David. I don't think any of them did enough. And then Ron, the reason I use him is he found that advantage. He now has more than anybody else does. And he even though we didn't see him interact with anybody, at least in a small episode like that, that's something. There was nothing that really happened that was too wild this episode.
No, Phil, you're at a huge advantage because of how tight of an episode this was. I would say it kind of has to be Ron because there's no one else who really sticks out. And Ron not only got an advantage, yeah, we don't really know who his allies are, but he won the first challenge. Like things are going average to above average for Ron Clark. Everyone else, the jury's still out on them. So I would have picked Ron too. I think he's the right choice.
Yeah, and when I look at your team, like maybe Joe, but then again, like Joe does all these great things. Do we really want to say that Joe's the MVP though? Because he didn't actually.
And he's doing exactly what's expected of him.
And he's also doing exactly what he didn't want to do. So this goes back to my whole Joe Mena argument that came up so many times back in Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. Joe Mena's whole plan was to piss people off so he would stay in the game. So his plan was working. Therefore, I would always say he should be MVP, not LVP. Joe's plan is to stay under the radar. Joe's plan did not happen this week. So I feel like Joe has to be, if we were still doing an LVP thing, I wouldn't even say that he'd be LVP, but you can't put Joe as MVP just because he did everything for his tribe because he said that's not what he wanted to do.
I don't think anyone's putting Joe at MVP.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to get some. And then other than that, I don't really see anybody in your tribe. I mean, I guess maybe Rick or Keith for Team Vaughn. I mean, Keith has a pretty good argument there because I think he went and saved face a little bit when he went back to his tribe and said, look, this is what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Rick, though, I mean, he was an incomplete. So, I guess we can't really give him anything.
Yeah, Rick is not applicable.
Yeah, not applicable.
There's two people on Vaughn's team. Chris and Rick are not. And, more than half of Vaughn's team. Chris, Rick, Gavin.
Yeah, and I know two of them better than I know half the other people. So get out.
Yeah. Okay, so that I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Team Carl took the first hit. Carl had Reem and Victoria, and we went into that tribal council with 2/3 of Carl's team in troubles. Things are not looking great for him. So yeah, Reem will. So for those of you who are doing the boot list, we are putting Reem at number 18. We are not waiting to see where she goes. We are not waiting to see where anyone else goes. Like Reem is going to be the 18th person voted out. If you had her there, your boot list.
No,
that's not how it works. What?
That's not what we're doing at all.
What do you mean? Oh, no. It's not at all what we're doing.
Alexa, stop reading the comments and quoting them.
Okay. Yes, ignore everything I just said.
We're going to cut that part from the episode. We'll pretend that Alexa was joking. No, we don't have a single thing for the episode yet.
You looked so upset.
Well, because I was like, wait a second, have we been arguing opposite things this entire time?
But like pretending or thinking that we were agreeing to each other.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. We don't have anything yet for the boot list. So the boot list scores are 0-0-0, which is great. Everybody, if you don't know Robert's Twitter handle, go find Robert's Twitter handle and tweet at him that you want him to input the boot lists and prop bets a little more quickly because of the bet he lost with Phil. Because Intern is really slacking right now, and he lost a bet, and he's supposed to be doing it. And I don't plan on going and doing it, so I'm calling him out right here when he can't defend himself. And I want everybody to say, "Hey, intern, get in there and start doing your job," because he's an intern, and it's time for him to pay his pay his debts. Let's go, get in there.
Pay his debts, is that the phrase?
Yeah.
So okay. So that's what we have to say about that. Yeah, doing boot list and prop bet is going to be a little weird this season. But stay with us. We're going to figure it out. For the first couple weeks, we're probably not going to post the rankings because everyone's going to be in the same page for a little bit. Like everyone's going to have the same scores. Like the only thing we got is Joe getting an episode title, which I'm sure none of you picked. So probably around like week 4, week 5, we'll start posting these.
Yeah, when intern's done.
What's up?
When intern's done.
When he's done. But yeah, this was a pretty tight premiere. I'm honestly impressed that we made it about an hour for this because I only took about a half page of notes and usually I go to like a page and a half.
I was actually watching with Will and some of his friends, and his friend goes, "Did you take any notes on the episode? Like you're just going to podcast?" And I want everybody to see my blank piece of paper. Those are my notes for the
that
episode.
Looks good.
I literally didn't write anything down. There wasn't much to remember.
No, there's not. Everything I wrote down is just like my kind of comments about things. Like, I just wrote Ron's secret advantage, which I didn't need to write down. Like, I knew that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe episode title in all caps. So yeah, I would say overall like average to like slightly above average premiere. I did not like it. Within the time constraint that we were given, like we have to remember that Survivor is not everything about CBS. CBS has a lot of other wonderful things. For the hour that it was given, I think it did a pretty good job. I don't think there's anything more they could have done. And I'm really happy with how they introduced Extinction Island. I'm really happy with that. And I really like that they had, like, I think Joe talking to someone, maybe Eric, where he was just like, what do you think it is? Like, no one really knows what's going on.
Mhm.
I like that. So I am still cautiously optimistic about this.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, right now, I think it's fine. It hasn't actually had a big impact on the game, and based on how I feel Reem is going to do, I don't think it's going to have an impact on the game yet. It's just, that whole issue of, is Joey Amazing going to go and just win the game because of that? I don't think it's going to happen, but I understand people's worry.
Yeah, it's the merge when this thing's gonna get big.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, Phil, do you have any closing points? The only other note I have is that Rick being an anchor was not intimidating, which I think we all assumed.
yeah, no,
honest about that, which is fine.
I don't really have any other notes because I just showed my blank piece of paper. But I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great episode, but it's not Survivor's fault, really. It's kind of CBS wanted Survivor to lead into the world's best, and it's pretty crazy that 38 seasons in, we're watching a brand new show that has Drew Barrymore on it have Survivor actually in their promo because that's what they need to pump it up. That's crazy.
Was
so
ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
do you think doing Survivor is hard? Try this.
I know.
Like, wait,
I was
what?
like, no.
How about the other way around? But
Yeah.
what do we know? We are not producers.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we're good. I think you should take us home. Talk about the power rankings. If you're a $20 patron and you want to be in the power rankings game, which is the only reason you should be a $20 patron, this is when you start sending them to us. This is when it happens. So anybody, I think I got one from somebody before the season started. That doesn't count. It starts this week. Get them to us by Tuesday. Send it to us Facebook, Instagram. You can do our personal Facebooks if you're friends with us, which good for you for breaking down our firewall because I do a really good job of not letting anybody in. Any way you want to get it to us, Patreon. If you want to email us, survivorspecialist@gmail.com. There is an S in specialists. It's not just me. There's two of us. Go ahead, Alexa. What were you going to say?
So Celestina, our girl Celestina, who is awesome. She, I believe, is the person. She DM'd us on Instagram with her power rankings for this episode. If we could give extra credit, we could, but we are not. So by like Tuesday night, give us your power rankings for next week. If you're in the Patreon Facebook group, Phil gave like a really good description of just how it works. Super simple. Message us however you want. Preferably try to keep it like in our Gmail or in our DMs, but whatever is easiest for you guys. In the meantime, we have been climbing up in YouTube subscribers. We are almost at 4,400 YouTube subscribers. So keep hitting subscribe there. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of the above. Instagram, we like blew up after the Alec and Kara interviews. So we're having fun with that. Twitter, we're getting close to 1,500, which is super exciting. So whatever social media you're into, we are on all of them. And if you want to be a patron, it is not too late. It is too late to do the power rankings, but we still have a $1, $5, $10, and $20 tier if you want to do the power rankings for a future season. If you want to hear us talk to Will again about being a a dream teamer. So any kind of content you're interested from us, we still do our Q&A podcast for our $5 patrons. We still do our $10 retrospective podcast once a month. We're just going to be tacking those on to the end of these. And we'll be back Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time with Bradley Kleige, I believe.
You definitely butchered that, no doubt.
It's not.
I don't know how to say it.
But that I think is what it is.
Is it? God, he's got to work on his last name.
It's not a great last name.
He's
Bradley from Ghost Island. Did you say he's not a great person?
No, I said he's our first person. No, he's a great person.
I was like, oh my gosh, we are really pumping up our first viewer. Bradley is going to be our first predictions guest. We are going to try to have a guest on for every podcast this season, like we did last year. We think we'll have a chance to be able to have someone for every single week. So Bradley will be our first guest. And we'll be with him Sunday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to tune in for that. And in the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful weekend.